Sports Network production. Now to your host.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, football fans around the world. Does not include the three of us sitting here on this show currently because it was a rough day. You are tuned in to the Variety Sports Network exclusive home for the NFL recap, preview, all of that good stuff. My name is Jimmy Pilato. I am joined by the Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports Podcast hosts, Daren and Tyler. We got a lot to get to today. Before we get into all that, I want to mention we are housed. If you're watching right now, you're watching on one of the Variety Sports pages. So wherever you're watching, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Variety_Sports_ and all that good stuff. This show will be airing Sundays and Tuesday nights. And like I said, we have plenty of recap, reaction, overreaction, crying, therapy sessions, all of that great stuff to get to. I'm going to bring in Daren and Tyler of the Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports Podcast. And guys, I know it was rough for all of us, so I'm glad that none of the three of us got to experience a victory, but it wasn't an ideal start to the NFL Sunday like we were expecting. Daren, what'd you think you were the only late game, so you got to wait a little bit longer to have your heart broken, I guess.
Yeah, it was funny because I was tweeting you guys a little bit like, the pay. Hopefully, my team can survive the struggle. Jimmy, you alone. We got to get into your game. Yours could be the whole podcast, for goodness sakes, that game. But then we got Tyler, like this monsoon over there in Chicago, just pouring down rain. Watching that, I'm feeling hope about the Raiders, and then everything Tyler's been telling me about Carr and everything I knew. He came true. He laid an egg today. It was terrible. So it was very frustrating as a Raiders fan, I'm sure. The thing is, you get this hope, and then you throw 3 interceptions. Come on, what are we doing here? It's just like, gosh, terrible start to the season.
Yeah, and Tyler, you were I know your fan allegiance when I came on your guys' podcast, the 49ers. It was a tough weather to start things off, but also tough to see what's supposed to be the future of your franchise did not look very good today, and you end up getting beaten in Matt Eberflus's debut as the coach in Chicago, and Justin Fields gets a big victory to start off this season. How are you reacting? How are you responding? Are you okay? Let's put that question out.
I think I'm okay. I think I'm going to be okay. I would start there. I'm very disappointed in the way they started. Trey Lance played terrible. We lost to the worst 1-0 team in the NFL, and I don't think it's going to be really close. This team is not good. We dominated them for the first half of the game. We should have been up by like 17. Debo fumbled in the red zone, and Trey Lance missed a pass to the tight end in the end zone. It was a bad game. The monsoon, it looked like nothing changed. It looked like we had Jimmy with some QB draws. There was nothing that the accuracy wasn't there outside. It just was not good.
Well, before we get into the actual breakdown of all the games, either whoever likes to do it, whoever you normally have plug all of your stuff, go ahead, plug your social medias, plug your podcast. We'll take the time here before we actually get into most of the stuff. And actually, we have a extra member to bring on. So before I let you guys add your show, we do have a special guest, Jake from Jake's Take Sports Podcast here on the Variety Sports Podcast Network, making his Talkin the Gridiron debut. So Jake, thanks for jumping in. I'm not sure who your NFL team is. Did you actually get a win today for the team that you root for?
We barely squeaked out a win. The Saints barely squeaked out a win. On paper, it looks really great when you have your kicker make the game-winning field goal, but obviously we've seen multiple kickers miss game-winning field goals. So
yeah. You had to bring that up.
Rubbing it in Jimmy's face early. I like it.
Didn't mean to. But I honestly thought we were going to lose to the Falcons, and that was would have been really upsetting because I give the Falcons so much shit.
We were just talking about Tyler's team losing to the Bears. So that's the one to know. It's you would have been in the same position with the Falcons.
Hey, at least you're not a Cowboys fan. They're going to claim their back. I'm watching it right now. This is just agonizing to watch. I don't know why I put myself through this.
The Sunday Night Football matchup was supposed to be great, and it ended up being one of the worst that we had throughout the entire weekend. Before we get into talking about all of the games, I'll give everybody a chance to plug their shows. So, Daren, Tyler, if you want to plug your podcast, where people can find your pages and all that stuff, you can go ahead and do that now.
Go ahead, Darren.
All right, yeah, for sure. Look for us at FatBoyFadeaway on Twitter. That's where we're mainly at. You got Tyler. He's at Tyler McGirt. Pretty simple there on Twitter. That's the place to look for us. You can also look for us on our YouTube channel at FatBoyFadeaway Sports Podcast. Up to 109 subscribers. Just trying to chug our way up higher and higher. You know how that game works. So slowly but surely. So appreciate any support along the way. So yeah, check us out. We just put a podcast out this morning.
Yeah, and Jake, if you want to plug your show real quick and what days people can find your stuff on the Variety Sports Network and your own channels.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm at Jake's Take Podcast on basically every form of social media. My personal Instagram is JakeSill14, and I have new content coming out every Tuesday and Friday. It focuses on sports in the South, so you're going to hear a lot of content in regards to teams like the Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Titans, and then a lot of college football teams based in the South too. So Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M, because I think it's really hilarious that Jimbo Fisher got his ass handed to him against Appalachian State yesterday.
I noticed a lot of people from the South like that. I noticed a lot lot of people were loving that.
No one likes Jimbo Fisher. Everyone hates Jimbo Fisher so much. And it was just so funny because basically yesterday the whole state of Texas lost.
I'm sure we will all be talking about the Texas game, the way that it ended with Alabama on all of our respective shows. I have checked out your show a couple times, and I do enjoy the college football talk. So now that we've gotten all that stuff out of the way, you can follow myself and Niko at FEOTB Pod on all social media. The Far End of the Bench podcast. We release new episodes Wednesdays. You can catch the Top of the Mountain Show, the other podcast that I do for Variety Sports Network, which is a Division II football show on Fridays on our YouTube channel. So be sure to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And now I guess we can go ahead and start talking about these games. The lights are on in my room currently. I had them off, and I was listening to the Black Parade, My Chemical Romance, for the last 3 to 4 hours. It was the first game, opening weekend game on CBS. The Bengals take on Pittsburgh in an AFC North matchup, and it ends up going the exact wrong way for myself and all of the people in Cincinnati. It was an ugly game. I guess we'll go around the group here first, starting off with Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati. What did we see out of the defending AFC champions, and what caused the ultimate demise? I know that there's a bunch of different topics to choose from, but I guess, Daren, what do you think? What's really stood out for your mind in that game?
I mean, it was the special teams. I mean, you guys had the game there at the end. Other than that little ending, it was kind of amazing. You guys, to me, were still in the game. It just felt like you guys were struggling.
Seemed a lot like that AFC divisional round game where the Titans had 10 sacks, and you're like, wow, the Bengals still have a lead. This is awesome.
It really had that feel to it. And then I was like, they're going to get the ball back again with another minute. I was like, what is going on here? And then sure enough, you guys go down and get close to scoring. Chase, he makes it to the inch line basically. And then he scores with no time left, right? I don't think there was any time left when he scores there. You think you got the game there, and then, just take it out for
a change up back to the kicker.
I was literally going to tweet you something. I had to erase it. It took me 5 minutes to write it. Then I had to erase it. I couldn't write great win anymore. So I had to take that out. So I don't know. It was just like I'm impressed with the Bengals. But I was the Steelers, though. You talked about them even winning the division last week on this podcast. You obviously know they were going to bring their A game defensively. They sure did today.
Yeah, no, their defense was on another level, and it's funny enough, T.J. Watt ends up getting hurt after making one of his more clutch plays. It ended up being actually wiped out by a penalty, but he tears his pec, so he's going to be out for a little bit of time. This Pittsburgh defense, Minka Fitzpatrick, and I know, Jake, you're very familiar with Minka Fitzpatrick, watching him play at Alabama and now being into the NFL. That dude is all over the field at all points. Does he ever stop moving? Have you ever seen him stop moving on a football field?
No. Ever since he was at Alabama, and I mean, they called him a mini Nick Saban because they would line him up basically anywhere. There was a time where Eddie Jackson gets hurt, and Niko, who had never played safety, goes in and plays safety, and that's the position he started at. That's the position he's a Pro Bowler at, and it's crazy. But no, the motor's always running, and I think with this, it's very reminiscent of the Steelers defense that we saw in the 2000s with James Harrison or Ike Taylor, Ryan Clark. It could be a lot of reminders like that. But my biggest concern really is the corners, because they're going to get picked on, and Jamar Chase isn't going to just go down easily into the night. I think my biggest takeaway from this was that Joe Burrow needs another receiver in addition to Jamar Chase. You saw that him losing, I think it was T. Higgins, that was a big blow. And Joe Burrow is going to throw it out. He's good at it. But also they need to run the ball. And Joe Mixon wasn't getting anything. Samaje Perine wasn't getting anything. So it's all about balance. And, I mean, Zach Taylor's from that line of Sean McVay disciples, so I think they'll get it figured out.
There's a lot that went wrong in the fact that your quarterback has 5 turnovers by himself and it doesn't do a single thing to help you. I think he might have been reading into his hype a little bit, and being told that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread may have gone to his head. Also is probably a little bit just on the fan base in general, putting all that pressure on him. Tyler, on the Steelers side, they had some interesting play calling. That was a big change up from last season. I did say that I think they can win the AFC North, and I still think that they can. Is Mitchell Trubisky going to be the quarterback for the Steelers by the end of the season with what you saw from him today, what you're expecting after that performance?
If they keep pulling out wins like that, but I don't see them keep winning like this. They have weapons outside that they can use. They have Najee Harris. Their O-line is a little lackluster where Mitchell Trubisky's legs help. But I see Pickett taking over at some point. He was their first round pick, and Trubisky's just not good enough. But to the Bengals, if I were you, I wouldn't be that. You lost a turnover battle by five turnovers, and you guys are still in it. Joe Burrow figured it out after, not really figured it out. He still struggled. But he got it going towards the end. And Jamar Chase, he's just unguardable. Minka Fitzpatrick was over the top of him the whole second half of the game. I don't know why they didn't attempt to pass to him in the overtimes. They just sort of phased him out and played conservative, and you knew the field goal battery was a mess. I don't know. It just didn't make sense there what was going on.
They had no response for Clark Harris being injured and not having a backup long snapper, and then there was the coaching. There was a touchdown that could have been reviewed that Zach Taylor would have had to throw the challenge flag. If that is called a touchdown the way that it looks like it would have been if they were able to get the review done, game changes completely. It's really not that – it shouldn't be that difficult for an NFL franchise. I know that you normally only carry one long snapper, but all of these guys who are playing football at this level and have played football for almost all their lives, none of them can figure out how to be a long snapper after one guy goes down. First snap is a changeup. Second snap almost goes into the third row of the stands. I think that Joe Burrow exposed the fact that he might have a little bit more of that Brett Favre gunslinger mentality without the arm than we might have thought. I'm not saying that I'm going to go completely off of the bandwagon. He's still my starting quarterback. I still have all the faith in the world for him. I said that the Bengals were probably going to finish with the same record as they did last season, and I don't know if that wins them the division. So I still think that that's pretty on point for now. But it was a difficult way for it all to end. And the Pittsburgh special teams wasn't that much better. Chris Boswell doinked that thing so hard off the upright that rattled throughout the entire city of Cincinnati. I can't believe he hit the upright that hard, almost like he was aiming for it. Najee Harris does go down. T.J. Watt goes down. 2 of the first major injuries of the day. Yeah. Is that going to be affecting the way that team is able to run throughout the rest of the season? What are the thoughts here?
I mean, Tomlin's right away. I was gonna say he just has a way of getting it done. They're gonna be battle tested the whole way. They lose guys, they have guys step up. They're going to win ugly just like this. That's what they do. They got lucky to get into the playoffs last year, right towards the end, right? They had to get some breaks. They're going to be there. I just see them being that team again. The Watt injury is too bad just for the whole NFL's sake. He's just one of the best players out there. So that kind of sucks if he's out for the season.
Yeah, and then with the Najee injury, they were saying that it shouldn't be too bad, but they're probably going to take it pretty carefully, which kind of is I have him in one of my leagues. But also, you have to look at the depth. The person who's playing behind Najee is an undrafted rookie, so they might have to bring in some other players to look into. I feel like they had a good shot, but you're also looking at your leading rusher after Najee went out with Chase Claypool. And that's kind of saying how scary that is if Chase Claypool is your leading rusher and he's just running a bunch of jet sweeps.
They do have their receiving core probably got as close to the Bengals, and now with the Bengals being as injured at receiver as they are, they have one of the more talented receiving cores with Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. As much as I don't necessarily care for him as a player or as a person, I guess off the field, he's not a terrible player. He's a good receiver to have. They have all of those weapons, and it is different to see a guy that can throw it more than 30 yards down the field. This offense does have an element of explosiveness to them that they could be. I think that they probably, if they were able to throw the ball a little bit down the field last year, they probably end up with 2, 3, 4 more wins than they ended up having on the season. They were still a playoff team. So the Steelers, they get the 1-0, they get the ugly victory, and Mike Tomlin continues to be just the coach that can do no wrong and can move himself forward no matter what. So that game ends in heartbreak. And what do you got, Tyler?
I just have a quick question for you, Jimmy, as a Bengals fan. Do you trust Zach Taylor all the way, or is there because I feel like they went for the field goal on third down, and I was like, okay, they're doing it, and then the snap was really high, and the punter or whoever the placeholder was at the time couldn't get it down with the laces. Shouldn't he have been reminded at some point, just fall on the ball if it's not a perfect snap, it's third down, this is why we're kicking it on third down? Like I was on the couch going, all right, so if it's a bad snap, they have this bad snapper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like, what are your thoughts on Zach Taylor? And like, he took you to the Super Bowl last year, so you obviously have some like leeway with him. But
he does know what he's doing, but he does in moments where it's a snap decision as a coach, it's not as crisp as you would like it to be. I think he made a snap decision to kick it on third down, and he definitely should have reminded his players to do the correct thing when that does happen. I agree with you, but there wasn't much else he would have been able to do. He didn't call the plays to cause the turnovers. He didn't call the plays to he didn't allow the defense to let up 10 points early. So it wasn't all on him, but he definitely, I would say my biggest issue with how the Bengals played today, and it proves that preseason is necessary, no matter how ridiculous those games are. You get into a rhythm and the players actually know what they're doing. Otherwise, you spend the first 2 weeks of the season going through all of the growing pains you would have had in week 2 of the preseason. Like, I don't think the Bengals, they're probably going to play better. They might not, but they're going to be a lot crisper, and their operation all around, I think, is going to be a lot better next week. But they're one of the teams that barely played any of their starters whatsoever. And Joe Burrow, maybe he did need a couple weeks to recover from the appendectomy and all of the stuff from the offseason. So there's a few things that I guess I don't know if they handled it correctly. But it definitely wasn't a good game from him. He got outcoached by Mike Tomlin, as he normally does. Last year was an aberration up until this point. Beating the Steelers 2 times in a row, that was never going to happen again. So it sucks, and I wish that they would have looked better, but it's not the end of the world. I'm not as upset as I was after they lost the Super Bowl. I can say that for 100% fact. Dare, where do you want to move after the Steelers game? I needed to get that one out of the way so that I could start enjoying it again.
Well, maybe we can hit like a couple teams here if we do this like this. Like, I was thinking teams that we could kind of hit the relax button on. You know, we mentioned your Bengals obviously right there, but like a team that maybe lost that, you know, we can kind of like, all right, let's not overreact. Like, we can go the Aaron Rodgers route here. Who can relax a little bit here? Like,
I feel like we could look at maybe the Raiders. So with the Raiders, Obviously, it's the first game with Devontae Adams. They did pretty decent, but I think right now Josh McDaniels is going to get the biggest run of the backlash. They could still compete in the AFC West, but the AFC West is really good this year. The fact that, pretty much you had the two other teams who played today undefeated. Denver's very highly favored tomorrow. So I feel like they can kind of hit the relax and they have the weapons, but really my biggest takeaway is you have to protect Derek Carr because he got sacked, I think, like 6 times, and most of it was by Khalil Mack.
Yeah, the irony of Khalil Mack.
He got him twice, like right at the end on that last drive there too. I'm trying not to over. I'm not trying to. That's one of the teams for sure. I was kind of thinking, what do you guys think of like the Packers or something? You think they're in trouble, or do you think that's a team you can relax on a little bit?
I don't worry about the Packers just because of Aaron Rodgers. Last year they got blown out week 1. I think to the Bengals, was it?
No, it wasn't the Bengals.
It was who? Anyway, they got blown out.
It wasn't a division rival. That's the only difference from this season. I didn't like the opening week divisional game. I don't know how you felt about it, Daren, with the Raiders and Chargers. I would have much rather had a divisional matchup week 4 instead of week 1.
They played 3 out of their first 4 games are division rivals, so they're going to get like right away. Just like we'll see where they're at. Basically,
yeah, the Saints do something similar.
That's quite the test.
Yeah, I did not enjoy that format. I do enjoy the 17-week format, and I like the extra playoff team. I think everybody's in agreement with that now. The team that I guess I'm probably going to hit the relax button on slightly, the Tennessee Titans. They should have won that game and should have been able to do a little bit more against New York. But this was the best that New York has looked in the last 4 years, ever since I can't even remember. But since Daniel Jones has been the quarterback for New York, that's the best Saquon has looked. That's the best that everything outside of them. They actually looked like a professional football team instead of a Halloween guys dressing up and acting like professional athletes. So as much as it sucks to lose that 1-point loss and you lose it on a 2-point conversion, one, I think it says more about Brian Dable and the fact that he's going to hang his nuts out on the table every single week. And if you're healthy as a Giants fan, now you can think about the last 3 years and go, we could have done something, especially with as bad as the division was, if we could have just kept our guys healthy. So I think that the Titans can relax a little bit, and I think the Giants, they look pretty impressive, better than I would have initially anticipated.
Tyler, yours was the Packers.
Yeah, I just don't worry about Aaron Rodgers. I just think he's a special player. He's proved it year in, year out. They win 13 games every year since they got rid of McCarthy. In the playoffs, I worry about him. But the lack of receivers, depth, it showed up today. Like Christian Watson dropped a wide open touchdown, and Lazard was hurt. But I'm just not worried about Rodgers at this point. You're going to have to do more than lose 1 game to the Vikings on the road. Or was it on the road? I think it was on the road.
Yeah, it was on the road.
On the road to the Vikings, where I'm going to start worrying about an Aaron Rodgers-led team.
There was a couple times where it surprised me how much the Vikings scheme was affecting the Packers. There's a couple times Preston Smith was covering Justin Jefferson, and that's never going to go.
That's not acceptable.
Preston Smith is a defensive end that's cosplaying as a linebacker, and Justin Jefferson was having one of the games of his life, like we all expect him to do. Those two, it's so wild to think that LSU had both of those guys, both Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson at the same time.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's a whole podcast you could do on that team. It was loaded.
I could, but I mean, as someone who graduated from Alabama, look, I was never a big fan of LSU. I basically, it was this one hit against UCF that I feel like just made Joe Burrow a better quarterback.
Yeah, I was watching that game too. It was like, that was the worst interception I've ever seen any quarterback throw, and he got laid out by the nose guard. And then after that, he just threw 400 touchdowns, it seems like, and never an interception again.
Jake, as an Alabama fan, real quick, who would win, the Mac Jones-led Alabama championship team or that Joe Burrow LSU team?
Mac Jones for sure. I mean,
oh, come on.
I just want to hear your answer. Go ahead.
You have to think about it.
Yeah.
So with this team, not only did they have one of the first wide receiver to win the Heisman since Desmond Howard, but you also had depth behind it. You had Jalen Waddle, who, if he doesn't get hurt, it's speed. There was only one receiver known for speed on the LSU team because Jamar and Jay Jets are speedy receivers, but they're both possession receivers.
Nah, they do more than be possession receivers. Jamar is the most dynamic receiver in the NFL, maybe, with JJ.
So, and then you had Najee Harris. Najee Harris is a bell cow. I don't know how he compares to CEH.
I'd rather have Najee.
I would rather have Najee.
Najee would be where I give Alabama the leg up. But
The biggest leg up is you have Nick Saban.
Yeah.
over
Coach O is
Over Coach O. Yeah.
I tried to say that with a straight face. I tried.
it's crazy. But I mean, it's also that with that year, you had Steve Sarkisian. I feel like I have to give Steve Sarkisian the upper hand over Joe Brady.
I was watching the Texas game. I was like, how the hell does this guy keep getting jobs after his like alcoholism and his like whatever went on in Washington and USC? I was like, this guy just keeps getting jobs. He went to Alabama and redeemed himself, I guess, and now he's at Texas. It looks like he's doing a good job. They look pretty good.
Hey, Jimmy, can I ask you? Can we talk about disappointing teams? Because you talked about Mac. They brought up Mac Jones. Well, let's go to can I just get to the Patriots? Then they look like crap. That was good to see.
That was disappointing. I would say that the Colts are also one of the bigger disappointments of the weekend, too.
That's a good call.
Setting up against the Texans in Lovie Smith's first game, and you were losing the entire time. You get it tied, and you can't score in overtime. Your kicker shanks a game winner that you probably should have had. I had some really high hopes. Obviously, I have high hopes because I drafted Jonathan Taylor and the Colts defense in fantasy. So that's part of the reason why I would like to see them do well.
The AFC did not look good today. I don't know what was going on.
And that's the crazy thing, too, is that the AFC so far throughout the entire offseason, that's where the Super Bowl contender, like everybody says there's 7 teams in it, 17 teams in the AFC that have legitimate shot at the Super Bowl. And today I didn't see 7 teams that were championship.
It's as if really the only ones we've seen were the Bills and the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs embarrassing the Cardinals was funny. I thought that was hilarious.
There's
I
been a
was
lot of
so wrong on
breakdowns,
that
too.
one. I was so wrong. I thought,
But there wasn't a lot of cross-conference play. So that the two teams that you just mentioned were cross-conference, and the AFC kicked the shit out of the NFC. And
Well,
the
that's
AFC
because,
matched up, so it was – that's where – and I said this morning on the Fat Boy Fadeaway podcast, the AFC is a crapshoot. There's so many good teams that, like, I can't predict a winner of any division, really, outside the AFC East, like, and have any real confidence in it.
No, I mean, with the AFC East, we know it's the Bills division, but we also know that the Patriots and the Dolphins are going to find a way where they are running down the hill and then trip over each other, and then one of them's going to fall across the finish line in second. Like, that's the best way to put it.
I don't know if any of you guys know who Logic is, but when did he become the head coach of the Miami Dolphins? I don't know if I was like, who the heck? Yeah. Anyway.
You're talking about the guy who said in his coaching interviews that the state he was coaching in had to have legalized marijuana? Yeah, that guy?
Is that what he said? I know.
That's what he said. He only interviewed in states that had legalized marijuana. So Carolina, I think, was out. I think North Carolina might have been out.
Your neck of the woods would have been perfect for him.
It was gonna either be him or Hackett, and we went with Mr. Positivity instead. They've been playing Everything Is Awesome on the sports radio station ever since he was hired, because that's like the joke, is that he and Russell Wilson are the 2 most positive guys of all time.
Oh my gosh.
on the same team.
But no, looking at this, I mean, with the Patriots, Mac Jones, oh my gosh. Logan, shut up. With Mac Jones hurt his back, and they had said that he'll be fine, but obviously, one, this is what happens when you let Matt Patricia call your offensive plays, and two, I don't even really think that it was just if like the O line just gave up, like they were just letting Mac take beating after beating, and this seems to always happen when they play Miami in the first game.
They struggle against Miami all the time. Yeah,
They always
Some
do.
of the worst.
And then, like in the second and third game, it's just like a completely new team. And we're like, okay, but why do y'all suck against Miami? Like Miami is so mid.
But if you look at that Patriots offensive roster, it is not. There's no one you're
It's
like,
not,
oh, that guy is dynamic. That guy's gonna do it. Reminds me of like when like the bad teams when I was of the Niners 10 years ago or the Raiders before Carr.
Nobody good.
Yeah, there's no one really there. Like Jacoby Myers, Devontae Smith, or no, Devontae.
No.
Who's the guy from the Dolphins? Parker.
Devontae Parker.
Devontae Parker.
No, I'm just not impressed with the Patriots roster.
Hey, I'm gonna say this: if the Patriots aren't doing well, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna sit here and boo-hoo it for that long.
You're not going to cry if the Patriots don't win? As a Raider fan?
I'm trying to be
started
even.
the Patriots
I'm trying
dynasty?
to be even here.
I know. The guy whose team started the worst, the best, I guess, NFL dynasty of all time. Yeah. I can't believe that you wouldn't want to see them do well. That makes I'm shocked. Next thing you know, I'm going to say that I'm glad the Steelers got Week 1 win and that the Ravens are undefeated. The Bengals are the only team in the AFC North to lose today.
So, yeah, there you go. You're in last place. You like it.
I was trying to move on from the stupid Bucs team. Speaking of, if we could talk about the AFC North and the AFC East. Flacco in his revenge game, did he forget that he was supposed to play well or that he was supposed to try and win the game? Baltimore, I don't think is that good, but they were miles ahead of a very bad New York Jets roster. And it's unfortunate because I think Saleh is the right coach for them, but I think Saleh's chair is starting to feel a little bit warm. That's just my read off of the New York Jets fan base. I don't know what you guys thought about that game and that beating in particular.
I mean, it was a terrible game. It's like one of those you just see right away, and you're like, all right, move on. We'll just kind of like check in after that one.
That's the red zone. Yeah, that's the red zone game. That's the game that if it
Wait
shows
for
up on red zone.
touchdowns.
Yeah. Shows up on red zone, I'm okay.
And that's the worst. That's the worst type of team to be a fan of too, because you have Flacco as your quarterback. Like, there's real no hope. Really. You know what I mean? You're watching the old man Flacco run out right, and you're like, oh man, whatever. Even if they will, at least if Wilson's back, at least you're like,
No
all right.
Hunter.
Or huh?
Nothing.
You're at least you're like, all right. At least he's in his second year. Yeah, thanks. If the cougar comes back, when he comes back, at least he got.
There's a goddamn cougar in the car.
Talladega Nights. Good reference.
The Jets suck. That's what it is right now. If I was a fan, they remind me of like a team. That's a one pick material. On my list later, I have. Can we eliminate anyone? I think we might be able to eliminate the Jets from the playoff picture. We might.
I mean, I already consider them eliminated from playoff contention. Let's see, my list of teams eliminated. The Panthers.
After 1 week.
I have the Bears are eliminated and they won
The
today.
Bears won. The Bears.
Yeah, but they suck. I'm telling you, they suck.
They weren't good. They're not good. But hey,
Okay, so I can't eliminate the Falcons yet because I know they're gonna find a way to get it together.
can we eliminate the Lions? I think we
I feel like we
Jared-
can, but they
They
actually
scored 35 points. You can't eliminate.
they look
I
surprisingly
know they didn't put up
good.
35 points. It's the Eagles.
Yeah.
The Jags are eliminated already.
Oh my God.
I would
the
say
AFC
we can
South.
eliminate Washington too because Washington still looks like shit.
Yeah,
even with
I'm
Kirk.
going to Washington because I have Terry McLaurin on my fantasy team, and Carson Wentz didn't utilize him until it was too late. Eliminate the Cowboys because they can't do anything. And
I love how we eliminated 3 teams at one.
There's 17 more weeks of this. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
yeah,
awesome.
it's going to be great.
Commanders fans tune in
That's how
next
we're
week.
just
We
gonna
might
draw
not
out
feel
of the
different.
hat and decide who we're going to eliminate. Okay, this week, all right, we're going to eliminate the Chiefs, even though they're 6-1.
The Seahawks haven't even played yet. They're eliminated.
Yeah, they're
Let's take a look at the winners.
It's like
Let's
Geno
take a look at the
Smith.
winners and which one of these winners actually suck. And that's what this. Hey, welcome back to Talkin the Gridiron. Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, like unrelated, but like I guess next question, like which quarterback who started was like the most surprising for y'all?
Good question. I was immediately. I kind of went to the Browns Panthers game. Like those quarterbacks kind of surprised me, like the way they kind of played a little bit, especially towards the end. Just kind of keeping the game a little bit there. I just thought it would have been worse, maybe like more like a Flacco type performance from. I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I thought. I don't know. It was kind of an ugly offensive game. I thought Hurts probably played the best, but he was playing against the Lions. He kind of surprised me. I kind of thought he was going to be a little overrated. So when I saw his numbers today and that, I kind of was like, all right, he kind of jumped out to me a little bit.
That's a good call. I mean, not to bring it back to this game again, it's Burrow how bad he played in that first 3 quarters.
I was about to say there was more quarterbacks that surprised me with how badly they played.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray was one of them. Kyler Murray looked like he was already onto the new map of Call of Duty because
I love this.
here's how bad it was. It's the quarter. You remember that coach from if you watched Last Chance U, and it was the Independence Community College coach, the white guy from Compton that talks like he's from the hood, and he was doing a film breakdown. He goes, just with the way the defense is lined up, Kyler Murray should know that he has to make sure that his tight end doesn't go out in the route. And he doesn't even look to this side of the field. So he's clearly not following the film stipulation that was in his contract that they, quote, took out. And then they got to put that shit back in there because he needs as much help as you can get. That was – it was.
And the pairing with Cliff Kingsbury just makes it even worse.
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing much either.
There's not a whole bunch of brain cells being rubbed together there. There's just 2 pretty boys off and like staring at each other in a mirror. That's about as much film study as you get out of Arizona. And the
like
Chiefs
2
are a
guys
defensive team. The Chiefs are not a defensive juggernaut, and they were absolutely killing the Cardinals today.
No,
It's like 2 guys who have been told they've been great their whole lives, just like coming together, and all of a sudden you have guys who are game planning and who actually do this for a living. Being like, yeah, you have some natural ability, but
Guys that take it seriously.
yeah.
I think you're right, though, Jimmy. I think it's more how the quarterbacks played bad, though. I think that's the biggest takeaway some scenes from. Like, because if you look at like Matt Ryan threw for the most yards, I think, and he threw 1 touchdown. I think that's the right call there. I mean, I was like, the offenses were way behind the defenses. It felt like
it was so crazy because
that usually isn't the case.
No, it's not, and and then you see in the next window, Kirk Cousins is lighting it up, Justin Herbert's lighting it up, and I was watching NFL Network this morning, and I don't know who it was who had said that they had picked Kirk Cousins. It might have been. I don't think it was. Oh, it was Michael Irvin. Everyone's roasting him. They're like, "Why are you picking Kirk Cousins for your MVP?" And it's like, "Well, he has 2 of the best receivers. Doesn't even throw to Adam Thielen."
Yeah.
Kevin O'Connell had that team. They look totally different than under Mike Zimmer. So, I think the Vikings have a little bit more to be pretty excited about. Since we haven't done one of these yet, before we get to our next topic, wanted to mention we are partnered with Row One Brand. So if you want to check out Row One Brand at the Cool Stub on Twitter, and you go to row1brand.com, you get 15% off anything in the art gallery when you use promo code VSP15. VSP15, you get 15% off everything with Row One Brand. Also in the Clutch Sports, you get 10% off anything in your order when you use code Variety Sports. That's all one word. Proud affiliates of the Variety Sports Network and Talkin the Gridiron here exclusively on BSN. All right. Are there any other games that we feel like we should hit on before we maybe get into more of just some of the news that might have been happening around the league? Anything else that anybody wanted to bring up outside of the games we've talked about so far?
Another quarterback that looked bad while he was gone was Dak. He looked terrible. With CeeDee Lamb, they didn't replace their weapons at all on the outside.
I was playing against him in fantasy, and he did exactly what I was hoping he would.
And I just don't know what the Cowboys are going to do with just CD. And, he's too slow to break anything off of major consequence, and they have nothing really to threaten any safety help. So I think the Cowboys might be in a world of hurt.
Tom Brady just dinks and dunks these teams. I mean, it's just crazy. It's like he just dinks and dunks the team to death. This is crazy. Those two quarterbacks, how different they are.
That's like a nightmare matchup when Tom Brady's going up against a team coached by Mike McCarthy, because Mike McCarthy's got nothing prepared and has no idea what they're going to do, and Tom Brady's just like slice, 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 slice. I think that's going to be other than the fact that, yes, Dak and Zeke have aged pretty poorly after that first season where they were both rookies. I think Mike McCarthy's the biggest downfall for Dallas. I thought that Dan Quinn was going to take over and be the head coach. I really did. I thought they were going to fire McCarthy and just promote Dan Quinn.
28-3.
You make a valid point there. But also, Belichick was the other coach on that side, and Belichick got whooped by Miami. So there's that. I wanted to I would say that the Browns. What do we think of the Browns roster outside? We all know that we would rather see the Browns lose every game just with everything that Deshaun.
I think that's a personal opinion you have.
I also want to see Deshaun Watson, get sacked.
Oh, okay, I agree with the Deshaun Watson.
That's why I was saying. Not so much.
I thought as a Bengal fan.
No,
I get it.
Because let's see, the Browns are not relevant. As much as the Bengals were never relevant, the Browns are not relevant in that regard. In my head, it's mainly just because of Deshaun Watson. I think their roster outside of him, they prove why they moved as much to get Deshaun Watson. Kareem Hunt today was an absolute stud. He worked me over in fantasy, 2 touchdowns, and he's not even
right up on the bench.
Yeah, he scored 23 points against me. 23 points.
Is there a bigger overreaction than the Chiefs releasing him after his video came out? Because if the Chiefs had Kareem Hunt as their running back instead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't know. This guy needs his own backfield. Carrying it with Chubbs it's not. I don't know. It's just two top 10 backs in the same backfield.
You need that in the NFL now, though. You need 2 running backs.
You don't need it.
I'd rather have it.
It was probably a little bit quick, but honestly, too, if you think about it, it was right after Ray Rice's whole situation happened. And even after the Ray Rice video came out and everybody was in agreement that it was one of the worst things that anybody had seen, there were still people in Baltimore like, this is BS. The NFL is out to get the Ravens. That's why they're suspending him, and no team's going to pick him up because it's a conspiracy. So I think that the circumstances surrounding when his video came out was probably a little bit more to do than what he actually did.
I just wish Hunt had his own backfield.
Hey, Joe Mixon has one of the worst videos that ever came out about somebody in college, and the details surrounding it make it even worse. I mean, it never justified what he did, but you can kind of see where he was coming from at certain points if you know the full backstory of it. But if you just watch the video, it's a 225-pound college running back. He's hitting a college girl as hard as he can in the face. Whether or not she said some racist remarks before that, not something that you're normally allowed to do. But hey, if you can run the ball really well and avoid tacklers, I guess the rules apply a little bit differently. All right.
As far as what we were talking about, the Browns, their roster is loaded. It's really, they have some weakness on the outside at receiver, but they have Garrett, they have Denzel Ward, they have the safety that I can't think of off the top of my head who's pretty good. And if you have a pass rush and you can cover a little bit, you're going to be pretty good.
I thought the Panthers looked okay too in that game. I thought they looked all right too. They showed a little bit more fight than I thought in that game. They were beating them.
Yeah, but Baker is like a wide receiver killer. Like DJ Moore was inadequate at team. Like OBJ was there and he was inadequate. It doesn't make sense why these good receivers.
Yeah, that's a good point. They just
but they were winning, like you were saying. So
yeah, the Browns are an interesting team. That will be one team that going forward here as we do this. It'll be interesting how they start out these first 6 games, and then when they get Watson back, how that actually how it affects the play. Maybe who knows.
I should probably echo the sentiment my co-host said on our show on Wednesday. But if you're going to be betting on the Browns at all, bet them before Week 11, because if you bet them when Deshaun Watson's eligible to play, there's no way that's going to work out, no matter who you're betting them against. That's like the worst bad juju. That's asking for a bad luck streak if you try and bet on the Browns after Deshaun Watson's eligible to play again.
Definitely no player. Definitely no player props.
I'll be quiet.
Unless it's like massages given within an hour, but
He led the league in tugs last year, and he didn't even play.
Talk about relaxed. The guy was the most relaxed guy in the NFL. How far can we go before Brandon just decides to take the show away?
You guys are gone.
Brandon's like, I can't do this all by myself, guys. I can't.
Like, oops, we're trying.
Well, there was a lot of flash.
To be honest, I could see where our comments might have been a bit premature, and in that regard, I apologize for that. Anything else that sticks out before? I think we're probably safe to get into a little bit of a break, and then we can maybe start talking about news going into Monday Night Football. Anything else that you guys want to bring up before we get into that?
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to take about a minute break. We'll be back here on Variety Sports Network's exclusive home for NFL Talk, the Talkin the Gridiron show, here with myself, Jake from Jake's Takes Podcast, and Daren and Tyler from the Fat Play Fadeaway Sports Podcast. We'll be right back. All right. It looks like Tyler and Daren are taking a little bit of a break. Here they come. So we talked about most of the opening slate. We're going to talk a little bit here about the Monday Night Football game. It's unfortunate that my co-host is not able to make the show tonight because his team is the visiting team here in the Monday Night Football matchup. Plus, they got a little bit of a rich narrative with their new quarterback. Outside of the whole Russell Wilson, so as two people that are completely outside of the Denver sphere and the Seattle, I guess you guys are closer to the Seattle.
I hate Seattle.
Yeah. Are you? So I guess Tyler, how much are you hoping that Russell Wilson goes out tomorrow and absolutely lights up the Seattle Seahawks?
I want to see Denver not give Melvin Gordon the ball, is what I want to say. I want to see them feature Javonte Williams, and I just think he's an excellent back, and I think he's going to be exciting to watch. Where Melvin goes, and I understand the two-back system you need now in the NFL, but that's the guy who I want to watch tomorrow. And I just hate Seattle. I hate Pete Carroll chomping on that gum. And I can't wait for them to be terrible again. It's going to be a good time.
Well,
it was one of the.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
It was just one of the weirder situations where you're trying to choose between a 70-year-old head coach and a quarterback who's won you a Super Bowl. Yet, when he won you the Super Bowl, you were able to go back there and not complete it. So, what was your thoughts, Daren, when the whole Seattle Russ saga was taking place?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of a weird deal at the beginning, like the way they kind of went about it at the very beginning. I know it was like all the way when Wilson made comments on like the Dan Patrick show, just kind of like underlining comments there that kind of started the whole thing a little bit. We kind of all saw this eventually coming here. I think it's good and I think Denver was one of the teams who saw it coming too. The thing I'm interested in for tomorrow is he's coming back to Seattle. So I'm interested in the reception he gets. I'm interested to see how he plays in that environment. And in week one, I'm actually kind of curious to see how Denver's receivers do. I keep hearing a lot about these guys, the receivers, and they just need a better quarterback. That's what we've been hearing because Locke, and given Locke is not good, but we've been hearing these receivers are pretty solid. So I feel like if Wilson is as good as we know Wilson is, I'm kind of interested in the Suttons of the world and see how they perform with Wilson.
I think the guy that kind of stands out that everybody's looking to see whether or not they're able to take the next step is Jerry Jeudy, because Jerry Jeudy was the first receiver taken in that class where Justin Jefferson was drafted, and I can't think.
Ruggs was taken before him, I believe.
Yeah, okay. So it was those two, but he was considered the quote, the most
Yeah,
polished,
it was
NFL-ready wide receiver, and he's come in and done absolutely nothing with that. He hasn't had the greatest quarterbacks. He's had 3 different offensive coordinators, and this will be another challenge for him. But here's the thing that I've being close to the team and being around Denver and what I've been hearing with sports talk radio surrounding it. Not only is he not doing anything with his God-given abilities, he's also not putting in the requisite amount of work away from the game to be able to actually move himself forward and take that next step. He's not putting in extra practice time. He's complaining just about the amount of targets that he gets. And I really don't know if I believe in his maturity level to be able to be a number 2 receiver for this team now. Now that Tim Patrick is down, it's Cortland Sutton, it's Jerry Jeudy. And Jerry Judy's going to be expected to be a major contributor for the time being and the immediate future for the Denver Broncos, and he has not proven himself to be that guy in the NFL level. He was it a little bit in college, but he's not that guy in the NFL.
Who's the tight end right now for Denver? They lost. Who's the? It's not
Okunge or
Okwebanon. Albert Okwebanon.
Thank goodness you said it. Thank you.
That's the color commentator, broadcaster in me. Okwebanon. Yeah. Alberto. We just call him Alberto. You can just call him Alberto.
What do you guys think of Denver's defense a little bit this year, too? That's kind of the intriguing part, too. They always seem to be kind of, they traded Miller, obviously, a few years ago, lost that identity with him. Who's kind of considered the main guy, like the leader of that defense?
It would probably be, Josie Jewell is the guy that wears the green dot. He's the
Is that a nickname or is that the guy's real name? Because I've never even heard that name.
Josie Jewell. Josie Jewell. He was the middle linebacker at Iowa 3-4 years ago now, I want to say.
Okay.
Was under Fangio, they had the talent, but they were also not doing themselves any favors. They were never playing with the lead. So the sentiment around Denver's defense is they're definitely not as talented as back in 2015. They're not expecting a no-fly zone level performance, but with an offense that can score and you're not playing from behind the entire time, you should be able to, 1, rush the passer because the team's going to have to throw to catch up to you, and 2, you should be able to play a little bit more loose and actually use some of the talent. They've invested heavily on the defensive side of the ball. Pat Surtain has the ability to be a top 5 corner in the AFC right now for this season. He could be a top 5 corner in the AFC. I think he might be able to be the number 1 corner in the AFC West. If I'm being 100% honest,
wow.
He has that amount of upside. So there's guys that are there. It's all just dependent on whether or not the offense can actually get them a lead so that they can win a game.
Well, that's what kind of makes tomorrow kind of interesting because you have Metcalf and Lockett on Seattle, right? You have like 2 legit receivers, but then you don't have anybody. We're trying to Gino's throwing the ball. Obviously, he's been capable of winning a game, but we've seen in week 1, nothing's guaranteed here. Monday night, you figure the crowd's going to be jacked up in Seattle. Denver, as long as they don't – I think Denver, the key is, with anything, avoid that turnover to get Seattle an early lead, and then you'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
Can I break a little news real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cowboys QB Dak Prescott will need surgery, expected to be out several weeks.
Surgery on what?
On his hand, his right hand. He threw the ball and hit a person's helmet.
Cowboy news. All right, Cowboy Central.
Out several weeks.
Who's
the safety in Denver that's really good? Yeah. And with him and Surtain, do you have a second corner, or is there
not one that's like a true
notable
number 2 corner? Yeah, it's not like when the no fly zone had T.J. Ward at safety, and then Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr. as your 1 and 2 cornerbacks. And Bradley Roby. They were able to let Bradley Roby be the second corner, and then use Chris Harris in the slot because Chris Harris Jr. is one of the best slot cornerbacks that has played the NFL in the last 15 years. So they don't have that amount of depth, but they've been drafting enough guys on that defensive side of the football. And George Payton is much better at drafting than John Elway was. I don't know what John Elway's – everybody likes to say it was a tape measure because if you were tall, he was willing to draft you. But I really don't know what he was looking for when he was – choosing the players for this franchise. Everything right now is set up to go. I think that it's going to be. I've been trying to temper Niko's expectations. I've been trying to temper the Broncos fans that I know I have in my life's expectations. I don't think it's going to go very smoothly, and it's because of the same thing that I brought up earlier today. when you don't play your starters in the preseason, this is a new quarterback, a new coach, and none of your receivers have played in the live game with your starting quarterback. There's going to be timing issues. There's going to be, I didn't know you were going to throw me the ball because I've never played with you in that situation issues. So I think that this game, the Broncos are probably going to be my pick to win it if we're going to have to make a pick. But I think it's going to be very close. It's going to be very ugly. And plus, it might be raining in Seattle because they like to do that.
The thing you mentioned that I'd argue back with you on is Russell Wilson isn't really a timing type quarterback. It's a lot of improvisation, a lot of running for first downs when he needs a first down. And then I don't know how good the O-line is in Denver. Obviously, you know better than I do, being in the area, hearing all the local talk.
It needs to get better, but it's not terrible.
And then Russell Wilson finds ways to win games that he has no business winning. It's a Niner fan. I've seen it way too often where it's hard for me to bet against the guy. Where I don't know.
I'm definitely not betting against him, and I wouldn't say that Geno Smith is a good enough quarterback to beat Russell Wilson ever. That is not gonna. The quarterback duel is gonna be heavily in the Broncos' favor. I just don't know if they're going to be able to score as many points as people are predicting. There's people that I've talked to that are thinking the Broncos are going to go out there in Seattle tomorrow on Monday Night Football and against Pete Carroll, who hasn't shown to get himself blown out, put up 48 points. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, NFL teams struggle to score 40 points just in general, especially let alone week one when you haven't played in an actual game before. So that's what I'm dealing with living in Denver is that level of enthusiasm and excitement. And I can't wait for Tuesday. I'm bookmarking that I need to download the Denver Sports Podcast on Tuesday from the ESPN affiliate, because if they lose, it's my guilty pleasure. I like listening to the local radio station and having all the people call in and just listening to the metaphors that they give for their team. I swear, there was one year where the Broncos had one of the worst losses of all time, and this guy who's totally hammered, he goes, I'll be honest with you, I've had a few. I got out of the bathroom recently, and I looked down, and that was where that Broncos performance deserved to be. I was like, okay, you are not happy. That is what I'm gathering from this little exchange here, is that you're not happy. So I guess we can start there and we can move on. But that's one of my guilty pleasures. I'm hoping at some point we have a phone line for this show.
Oh, we got to get one, man. We got to get one, because I feel like once we get like some people calling in, like that's when we can react to, like, you idiot.
We would have had like angry
I don't care getting ripped on. Call me an idiot all day long. I don't care. You know, whatever. We could go back and forth. That's what this is for. So hopefully that'll be fun. I hope we do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to look into how to do it. I know that we went on a Thunder Tampa Bay Lightning podcast during the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they have a live phone line set up through their StreamYard, and
gotcha. Yeah.
Listen to their episodes a couple times is like interesting, because there's some people that just call in. That was one of the weird things when we were going through college radio. They had a phone in the station, but they tried not to give the number out so that nobody would have to take a call on the air, because they're like, we don't have a big enough FCC budget to cover F-bombs. And we live in a college town. This is a college station. I know the people that are calling in are going to be drunk or lost and trying to figure something out.
Where'd you go to college again?
Western Colorado.
Western Colorado. That's like really snowy, right?
Yeah, that's where Eckler went. Austin Eckler. Same school where he went.
That's sick. Yeah, I remember talking about that now on the Fat Boy Fadeaway podcast. You can find that on YouTube if you were wondering.
So can I ask real quick? So you have Denver obviously winning tomorrow, Jimmy, or do you got Seattle?
Yeah. I got Denver. I don't think that Seattle's gonna. That's not happening.
I took Denver too, so I think we're going Denver.
Is Seattle the worst?
No, it's the Bears. You said the Bears were the worst team.
No. They're the worst 1-0 team. I said.
No, I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think when you still have Metcalf and Lockett, you're at least like capable at the moment. So we'll see.
But that's like Denver the last 5 years with Sutton.
I was gonna say here's exactly. Seattle is living what Denver has gone through for the last 3 years with Drew Lock, and they're doing it with Drew Lock also. So that's even crazier.
That is.
Yes, we get And Niko tried to make that same argument to me, and I tried to point out that it was the same thing he was telling me for 3 years, except he wouldn't buy it. There's a reason Geno Smith is starting. It is because Drew Lock will make a catastrophic mistake at some point. It's always. The Broncos were playing the Bengals and had the chance to win that game and go to the playoffs, or have a chance to go to the playoffs. And Drew Lock actually handed the ball like it was the water boy to the Bengals linebacker. He's like, oh, here, I fumbled. Oh, no, I don't have the ball anymore. So that was always going to happen. There's a reason why the guy never gets a shot to play at the NFL level.
Yeah, turnover machine. I always found it weird. I thought this week they did the 2 Monday night games, but I guess it's next week they're going to do.
I was hoping they were doing it. I sounded like an idiot on our show on Wednesday on the Far End of the Bench podcast, which you can hear on Wednesdays. I said, "Yeah, we don't even have to pick." Yeah, I was hoping. I love the doubleheader because I've done well. This year will be different because Aikman and Buck are Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
It was the worst chain of events for me this morning because the Bengals lose on CBS, and then Tony Romo and Jim Nantz were calling the game right after. So I went from watching the Bengals lose in overtime to having to sit through Tony Romo.
I forgot you're not a Romo.
Are you not a Romo guy? I haven't met too many non-Romo guys out here.
The worst. Him and Jim Nantz are the absolute worst together.
Oh, I love Jim Nantz. Romo, I'm not huge, but Nantz I love.
If I wanted to watch the Masters every week, I would watch the Masters when Jim Nantz is calling that. I don't need him doing golf announcing during football games.
Tyler, I think you like Buck, actually. I know you're not as a Buck fan as much as you like him for football.
Buck blows.
Wow.
Sorry.
Tyler's like the opposite of me. That's Buck. What does Buck do to earn?
He hates the San Francisco Giants. They play the Cardinals in the NLCS, and he gets on his knees and tells you how good the Cardinals are. That's what it is. It's more baseball oriented.
You Giants fans like to find stuff to complain about when there was an 8-year stretch where you win the World Series every other year.
6 years around there.
It's 6 years. Okay, yeah.
Big complainers over here, Jay. I got to deal with that. That's funny. Well, it should be a good game. I'm excited for it. We'll see what happens. Last game of the week. See who pulls it out.
Yeah, last game of the week. Do we want to talk a little bit, because we didn't have a show on Tuesday about that Thursday night game and what exactly happened to the defending Super Bowl champions before we kind of wrap things up and get on with the rest of the show?
Yeah, what did you find more interesting? The Rams like kind of not looking good at all, or the Bills looking like the dominant favorite after week one? Like, to me, those are the two angles. Like, the Rams is like Stafford at times. He looked terrible. Like, they look just, and then you look at the Bills and it's like, good Lord. Wow. We might have a juggernaut on our team this year.
Yeah, I really didn't. I mean, I didn't expect it to get that out of hand in week one, that's for sure, especially on opening night. Normally the Super Bowl champion has some pride on the banner nights. That was non-existent there.
No.
That was, especially too, you think about it, 3 weeks ago is when Aaron Donald was swinging the helmets at Lyle Collins and trying to fight the entire Cincinnati Bengals squad. And then on Thursday, he gets absolutely annihilated for the entire 2.5 hours of the game, makes no plays, and is a non-factor, and his team gets throttled. And there was not a single ounce of fight in that Los Angeles Rams team. They ran the ball out. They ran the clock out at the end of the game. They didn't even try to salvage some sort of pride. It was really disheartening to see how, like I said, the Super Bowl teams from last year, I will go ahead and make this take right now. There's a possibility that the Super Bowl teams from last year are the worst two teams that we've seen play in the Super Bowl for the last 5 years. Because the way that the Bengals came out and responded, the way that the Rams came out and responded, those are two teams that were just happy to make it there at one point, and now they're going to ride out whatever else is going on through the rest of the season. But I do think that the Bills' defensive line is something that we all need to talk about, take notice, expect from now on. Not a single blitz, and they sacked Matthew Stafford 6 times?
Oh, Von Miller.
I think you sent the best tweet about Von Miller. I think it was you. Who was the best natural pass rusher.
Yeah, I think that was Niko, but we were on the same page too.
He's filthy. What he does, it's crazy.
They have they created a pass rush move for Von Miller with that move where the left tackle was going to try and grab him around the shoulders just so that he didn't sack Stafford and missed. They called that a ghost rush because he was there and then he disappeared and he was sacking the quarterback. But I've never seen somebody with the ability to dodge an offensive lineman's pass rush strike so effortlessly.
No, he's unreal.
Because that's the thing that I coach linemen. I try and coach kids, and I can't tell them watch Von Miller tape. Because if I tell them to go watch Von Miller tape and go do that, go ghost rush. I'm sorry? I can't levitate.
My shoulders don't lead like that.
I'm not 6'4" and 250 pounds and run a 4.5 40. I can't do that. That's not possible for me. Like a Khalil Mack, you can watch and you can say, yeah, just get really strong and then forklift guys. Reggie White, get really, really strong, forklift guys. Von Miller, you're like, I guess get faster off the ball and then work on your balance to the point where you could be standing with your head three feet off the ground and you're still running twice as fast as anybody else does forward.
Getting an edge.
It's Allen and Mahomes. Can I point that out for my big takeaway this week? It's just Allen and Mahomes. These guys are going to battle for the MVP, I think, this year. They just seem like they're both.
You're leaving out one guy, Ben.
No, I might be. I'm just saying. I think they look at each other as the top guys in terms of how young guys. I think they kind of compare their stats a little bit. They might not say it, but I think they're kind of keeping an eye on how one of them are doing. That's just how I feel when I watch them play.
I would like to
do each other.
I would like to point out Jalen Ramsey because I had to deal with an entire offseason.
He was my loser of the week.
Of Eli, I had to deal with an entire offseason of people saying Eli Apple is burnt toast and Eli Apple sucks and this and that. Yeah. Jalen Ramsey apparently thought that was teach tape and tried to do the exact same performance on Thursday night because he was flying all over the place. Stephon Diggs had that man falling in front of him, like not even covering the guy, just falling down in front of him. Yeah. The Rams defense is in dire need of some help. Bobby Wagner was not the help that they were expecting him to be.
It's all about the pass rush. It's not these middle linebackers that make like a huge difference. You have to have an edge guy and Donald up the middle is a huge threat.
But they were able to neutralize Donald up the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Without Von Miller on the outside. And my biggest takeaway as a Niner fan, the NFC West sucked this week. And Seattle is probably going to get blown out on Monday night is what I'm thinking. So that's 0-4. And but the Rams have these stinkers. They did it against the Titans on Monday night last year. I expect them to bounce back.
That's the thing that would concern me if I'm a Rams fan.
I'd agree.
He looked weird. He just didn't leave it.
He didn't look like he had velocity on him.
His elbow was bugging him, and when you have that kind of an injury, you can't throw the way that he's always thrown. He doesn't have a good motion. So then you have the elbow injury, the bad motion. You don't have the velocity that you used to be able to throw with. So
before we move on,
yeah, go
ahead. He talked about Mahomes and Allen as a two most. Is Herbert in that? I put Herbert right there with those two guys.
No.
He's going to have the hype. He's going to be in the conversation because he's going to have the hype behind him, and he's the young gun. I don't necessarily think that he's going to.
I think he's better, to be honest. We'll see.
He might be better, but I don't think that his team. That's the one thing about the fans and teams in the AFC West is that they know the Chargers at some point are going to do something and just shoot themselves. They're going to be JPP holding a firework and it's going to explode in their hands.
They almost did it today.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they gave the Raiders more chances than they deserved. I know that.
Yeah, they did.
They almost went Charger there.
I feel like they're holding an explosive in their hand. They're thinking that it's not going to explode and it's going to blow up at some point. And
see, I think the Chargers roster is unreal. Like with Mack and Bosa on the outside, it's the coach. Staley scares me. Like, I was like, if they lose today, if they blow this lead to the Raiders, I'm firing them after this game. You've blown enough games. You blew the whole last season for us. One game's enough. You're gone. I'm not doing this again. But they pulled it out, so now here we are. But, yeah, I like the Chargers. I just don't like the coach.
The thing about the Chargers, and it's the same thing that I had to deal with the Bengals, too, they were the two teams. They had the most amount of time when they played. I think they played week 11 or 12 last season. They had the most amount of time ahead by 20 points and the most amount of time behind by 20 points. So it's feast or famine, and they're either really, really good or they are really bad and look like they shouldn't even be out there on Sundays. but they did look good today. And I think Herbert with 3 touchdowns, he's in that early season and that first quarter of the season MVP race. He's in there, kind of like where Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray always are. He's going to be the one that I'm looking for to take the next step and actually, if he's able to do what Burrow did and throw less than 8 to 10 interceptions and 30 touchdowns, I think he's probably going to be in that MVP conversation, at least offensive, player of the year. And the Chargers should be in the playoffs if that's happening too. If he's having that good of a season, the Chargers should directly benefit.
And none of his top weapons did anything today of real note.
Yeah, I know. Keenan Allen was one of my receivers, and I was like, well,
He got hurt, right?
that was great, but
He started off good in the first quarter, and then it was kind of nothing. And Mike Williams didn't do anything. Eckler didn't do anything. So that's why I just like Herbert. I think he's special.
He's definitely one of the big 3 for sure, but I just don't think he's on Allen and Mahomes level yet.
People probably put him in that same category as Burrow just because they still have to. Well, I mean, Allen. If Allen didn't look as good as he did the other night, I don't think we're talking about Allen as a surefire MVP candidate. Allen would probably be in that same tier as Burrow if he didn't do what he did on Thursday night.
Maybe so. Maybe it's because I picked him to an MVP too. I'm a little biased.
That probably has a lot to do with it. And Niko picked the Bills as his Super Bowl champion like 3 weeks before the season started. I think it was after they walloped the Broncos in preseason. He's like, this Bills team is legit. I just want to say that right now. And I go, yeah, you're really saying stuff that nobody's ever said before. That's groundbreaking. Did you know that the earth is round as well? And that the wheel can help you carry stuff up a hill. But do you
have a Super Bowl prediction on record yet?
Not one that I'm 100% confident in.
Well, no one's 100% confident.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He was like the Bills. I go, what about this? The Bills. Okay, it's
fair enough.
I would say
if you had to do one right now,
it's not the Chargers. It's not going to be the Rams. It would probably be the Buccaneers from the NFC, and in the AFC, I think the Chiefs. I think that the downfall of the Chiefs was premature, and they probably should have been in the Super Bowl last season if the Bengals weren't able to figure out their way to win in overtime. So I think the Chiefs are probably still going to be around there. And Mahomes looked just fine with Juju Smith-Schuster instead of Tyreek Hill.
He looked the
Did
part.
not seem like it fell off quite that much. I was hearing too. People were predicting that was Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes were going to be pissed off with the amount of slander that they heard in the offseason, and I would say that their performance kind of showed that.
Oh yeah, and we knew.
I think Daren was saying that on our show, to be honest.
I mean, the only thing it didn't happen is I thought he was going to throw the bomb on the first play, but he didn't do that. But they came out and just basically ran down the field,
Andy Reid is a buffet guy. You don't sprint at the buffet. You go methodically make your way around the spread. And then at some point,
especially if you're a crafty vet.
Yeah, he is a vet now. That was the other hilarious thing too. I know that we've moved on from the Sunday games, but just going into that Jets game, the way Jets fans were talking themselves into Joe Flacco was that he throws a veteran ball.
You can never talk into Joe Flacco at this point being anything other than a terrible quarterback.
The fact that he won a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP is like one of the most mind-boggling stats. That should be something in 20 years when that gets brought up in a trivia game. Yeah.
And against a Niners team that is very good. That Niners team would beat a lot of Super Bowls.
Wasn't Patrick Willis on that team?
Yeah, that team was loaded. Bowman, Willis, Alden Smith in his prime, Justin Smith.
They just were missing a quarterback.
I mean, he even played good in that season, but yeah, you're right. He turned out to be
receivers too. The receiver core was always pretty good.
Michael Crabtree.
Vernon Davis was a beast.
Yeah, Crabtree, but I mean, they didn't have that vertical. It was always kind of like their thing, right? They didn't have the vertical guy down.
Yeah, but they were a running defensive team. It wasn't like they were low. That team was very good, and I can't believe they lost to that City Ravens team. They got lucky. They beat the Broncos on a Hail Mary. They didn't even deserve to be in the Super Bowl.
But then if the Broncos play in that Super Bowl, the Broncos probably whoop the 49ers. That was the best Broncos team. That was the best Broncos team of the Peyton Manning era.
Well,
that Niners defense was good.
It was good, but not good enough. The Ravens kind of worked them. Hey, one of my last questions I got for is, who do you guys got as a show me team for week 2? And what I mean by that is, like, who's got a step? Who are you looking for? Like, for me, it's the Colts. I'm like, all right, people picked you to win the division. You tie the Texans, for goodness sakes. You had to come down from 17. Show me you're actually a division candidate here, like people thought you were. Come on, Matt Ryan. People told me that you're gonna take the Colts to a different level. So for me, that's like a show me team that I kind of want to see, step up here in week 2.
I'll be a homer real quick. It's the 49ers.
Yeah, that's a good call for sure.
They got to show me something more than what they put out against the Chicago Bears. They look terrible. The offense, I can't get through how bad they looked. I was so disappointed in Shanahan. I was like, and then I don't know if it was Lance not being able to execute Shanahan's plan or if Shanahan's plan just was so conservative that it looked this bad. So it's the Niners for me.
I want to say, I would like the Bengals to make a quick turnaround and do better but that's just the fan in me. I would say the show me team that I have probably, I'm going to say the Titans, because the Titans, other than the Colts, were the odds-on pick for the AFC South and should technically be the best team in that division. I think they have one of the better coaches. Vrabel and Reich are the two best coaches in the AFC South, so if Vrabel weather this really bad loss that you had against New York at home when you shouldn't have lost, and hopefully figure out how you're going to make a run. Because remember last year, they were the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they played the most amount of players ever from start to finish of the NFL season. So they've overcome adversity, and it's not like they started off super hot at the beginning of last year. So I think that they have it, and I love Taylor Lewan. He's one of my favorite offensive linemen to watch and root for. So I would like them to be my team. So I'm going to say they'll be my show me team. Like prove to me that you can win that division. If you don't go out there and win next week, you lose another close game, I'm going to say that you're probably not where you thought you were.
I have 2 things on what you just said.
Real quick.
Go ahead, Daren.
I was looking ahead, though, just because I was like, let me see who the Titans play at Bills Monday night.
Yeah, show me. Prove it to me.
Yeah, it's going to be a show me game.
I hear you. That's if you win that, we're right back on number 1 seed Titan material.
Protect Ryan Tannehill. Don't let him get sacked 7 times.
Is one of the reasons you love Taylor Lewan because he's a big hockey fan and he can chug a beer very well?
That, and I like listening to Bussin' with the Boys for the comedy aspect. I don't listen to Bussin' with the Boys for any of their football analytics. I had to break that. I burst Niko's bubble the other day because he goes, well, Will Conference in Nebraska, University of Nebraska was going to go 11-3, and he was legit. I said, Niko, that's a comedy show. That is not a sports analysis show. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just talking to talk. They're Barstool. They're trying to make a headline.
But back to the Titans real quick, we have a huge Memphis, Tennessee. Somehow we have this following from Tennessee, and they hate their offensive coordinator, Matt Downing. They just rip on him. They blame him for everything that goes wrong in the franchise, from what I've seen. And I'm not a big Tannehill guy. I think Tannehill's on the Garoppolo stage of his career. I think they're pretty equals.
Yeah.
So and if they beat the Bills, I'd be shocked. That is my.
But they got to show up, and that's why I think that's a good show.
Yeah, it is a good show. Me
they
too. I'm not
lost the
disagreeing.
Giants at home. You can't lose the Giants at home in NBA division. Well, that's a good call there.
Here's the good news. I just looked at next week's schedule, and the Bengals play the Cowboys, so I should be in for a bounce back week, right?
You should be with no Dak, no weapons. You're good.
And then watch us get beat, because that was the thing last year. We would get beat by the backup quarterback. So we got beat by the Jets with Mike White. Watch Cooper Rush come out and throw 3 touchdowns on the Bengals in the first quarter. And my world will completely. This show will be a very interesting show if that does end up happening next week.
Just throw the CD.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I guess that'll be, since I'm not going to be on the Tuesday show, I'll wrap up with saying the game that I'm most looking forward to, that I hope you guys talk about when you are on here for next week. I want you guys to talk about the Bucs and Saints, because Brady still hasn't been able to figure out the Saints, and I've heard the talk that they should be a contender for the NFC South. I want to know what your guys' thoughts would be. So on Tuesday when I'm listening, I'd like that to be one of the points of discussion for your preview for the week, because the Bucs and Saints is a pretty interesting matchup for me.
Yeah, the Bucs Saints would be. They're always the Saints always play the Bucs tough too. So that would be, and
it's in New Orleans too.
Yeah, they kick their ass normally.
Well, and the Saints, I would think, would feel a little bit more. I mean, they barely pulled it out against the Falcons, so that would, I think they'd feel a little bit of urgency there. So that's a good call there with that one too. The Bucs is just with Brady, it's hard. It's just like, how do they ever lose with him? Like even when they lost to the playoffs, it's hard. That'd be a good call. That's a really good game next week too. I was gonna say Bengals Dallas before, but that injury kind of affects that game. I feel like mightily in terms of the importance of that one.
If Dak was playing, I would have said that's a loser leaves town game. Like, prove that you're here to be a contender for the postseason, and if not, just quit wasting my time.
I think for me, the most intriguing game is Miami at Baltimore. I don't know why. I feel like that's kind of just intriguing. Not necessarily the most exciting game, just kind of intriguing with these teams. Just kind of like, all right, the Dolphins, you played well against the Pats. We'll see if they'll step up here against the Ravens. And Lamar, obviously, we talked about him, Jimmy, a lot last week too, and so that's kind of an interesting one for me.
I think for me, I think it's the Eagles versus Vikings. We get Jalen Hurts, we get Kirk Cousins with this new offense. We got the weapons. We got AJ Brown versus JJ. I just think that could be a really good game, and it's a rare good Monday night game. We don't see too many of them.
Both Monday night doubleheaders are good.
Yeah,
but they're playing.
Bills Titans too.
That's weird. They're playing at the same time, so you can't really watch both unless you got TVs there. So it's kind of a weird deal. They got one at 4:15, one starting at 5:30. So
why are Buffalo's favored by 9.5?
Well, you said Tannehill. Hey, listen.
Josh Allen versus Tannehill. I guess denying that. Yeah,
that's a huge line. Not as big as the Rams, though. The Rams are 11-point favorites.
Niko, bet that right now. Titans, put it on.
Titans minus 9 or Titans plus 9.5.
I love that part about your guys' podcast though, because he's always like, I'm like, that guy must look at the lines every morning because he knows the game with that. I'm always impressed with his knowledge of that stuff.
I said it a couple weeks ago. He's addicted to sports gambling, and I'm just addicted to making stupid bets with my teams. So I bet Brandon on the first two. I bet Brandon on the first 3 games against the Blues. If they win 2 out of 3, I have to teach in a Blues sweater, and if the Avs win 2 out of 3, he has to teach in an Avs sweater. But that has no bearing. I don't know why I made the bet, but I made it. In college, I used to do, since it was so snowy in western Colorado, we would do, if you were the loser at the end of the season, you had to go jump in a snowbank in your underwear. Have you ever seen Mystery Alaska? That's like if you talked about whatever was said in the locker room, they make you go in your jockstrap and slide across the ice into a snowbank. Basically, same premise. You just had to dive into the snow.
How bad are the burns? Have you ever had to do that? I couldn't imagine. From studying California, I can't imagine jumping into snow and just.
Luckily, since we have no moisture in our air, our skin's normally pretty tough. So it's like you hit the snow and the snow kind of just melts off you because it's like, I don't want to deal with this. This is not normal.
You guys are really made different at the Rocky Mountains.
We have extra red blood. We do have extra red blood cells. I will say that we do have it because we're struggling to breathe all the time. We're just suffocating constantly.
Yeah,
we're like, have you seen Spaceballs? Our mayor has like the can of air in his desk. He just
own the desert.
That's hilarious.
All right. Anything else before we kind of wrap things up and plug the shows one more time? This has been fun one. Week 2 of the Talkin the Gridiron podcast. You guys will be back on Tuesday, right? Is that correct?
I don't know if I'll be there Tuesday. I'll be here Sunday every night. Tuesdays are going to be hit or miss.
My plans to be with you. I think the guys from the Delaware podcast are going to be running that one, but I'll be here the Sunday ones with you guys every Sunday here. So I'll probably jump on the Tuesday one whenever I can. If I got some time, I'll jump on there for sure. A little earlier starting Pacific time. The 6 o'clock's a little tougher here. It's a little prime time here. Yeah.
I was gonna say it's 10:30 and I still have to wake up tomorrow and teach 5 classes of 12-year-olds. So.
Yeah, same here. I got kindergarten first thing.
I don't teach, but I gotta lift heavy equipment at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I have a newfound respect for the two of you having kids of your own. I can't deal some days there's just there's no level. There is no limit to the amount of stupid comments that I will hear throughout the day.
No.
There's no limit to how far I'll go to shut that kid up sometimes.
Well, at the end of my first week, I was giving a notes presentation, and this this kid went to the bathroom and he comes back and he doesn't say anything. He just walks right up to me as I'm talking to the rest of the class, giving like a major point of the notes, and he just goes, "There's poop on the boys' bathroom floor," and then goes back and sits down at his desk, and I just kind of had the wind taken out of my sails, and I go, "If you're going to the boys, if you're going to the bathroom, go to the one downstairs."
They don't care. They'll tell you whatever they need to say at that point. That's the best part.
Kids say the darndest thing. It's really the truest thing I've ever seen on TV.
But I have to write a book.
I am looking forward to maybe jumping on once in a while though with the Tuesday one. We were talking about that with the Variety Sports Network there, with the guys there once, especially after like a Monday next week. Monday's games are so good. Maybe I should jump on Tuesday if they live up to the hype with it. So yeah, I look forward to that part of it too for sure. And yeah, I think this will be good as we keep going through the season here. It was good having Jake on, getting a little take from his take there. I'm thinking we can get the more.
Can I call out Niko real quick? I know he's busy. Niko, get your ass on here. Come on, let's go.
Man. Traveling, call in. I want to, especially if the Broncos lose next week. It'd be fun to have him on. The Raiders fan. We got to get him on too. So we got to riff on it.
It's all fun. It's all fun and games.
We're riffing down.
You heard it here first on the Variety Sports Network. The Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports guys like it when far end of the bench is in pain and crying.
We like your punishment. We like.
Hey, I'm crying right there with you right
I'm
now. I
really in
love
pain.
fucking Bears.
All right. Be sure to follow the Variety Sports Network at Variety_Sports_. Follow on your favorite podcasting platform. If you do, you will get new episodes of the Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports Podcast every Sunday, new episodes of the Far End of the Bench every Wednesday, and all of the other great shows on that banner. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel where you're watching this. Subscribe to the Far End of the Bench YouTube channel. Follow at FEOTB Pod. Our new episodes come out Wednesdays. Daren, Tyler, their new episodes come out Sundays, and they are at Fat Boy Fadeaway on Twitter. Did I get that right? Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well.
Yep.
Bumping up over. You guys beat us to 100, so keep it rolling. I'm listening currently to your most recent episode, so when we come back on next Sunday, I'll let
Now
you
it's a
guys
race
know.
to 200. It never ends.
Race to 200, that's for sure. We're right there with you guys. So
Yeah, you're right there.
Appreciate the support, man. We're right there with you.
Likewise, it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully, we get the four of us. We should have just a crossover episode where we release it on both of our feeds and get the four of us in the same podcasting space and get that episode knocked out of the way. But this has been a ton of fun. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you tuned in live on Sunday night, be sure to check out the episode coming out Tuesdays. And for the Variety Sports Network, myself, Jimmy Pilato, Daren, and Tyler from Fat Boy Fadeaway, thank you all for listening. We will catch you guys a little bit later on.